So I guess the big question and the first question must be, are alien abductions really occurring? Or is it just the figment of somebody's imagination or lots of people's imagination? What's really going on? Because if they're real, then that poses a lot of questions that we need to have an answer for at the end of the day. And so what we will do today is we're going to deep dive it all. So the first thing is, are alien abductions real? So what's the evidence? So the evidence is simply the people that have come forward to disclose that they've been abducted by aliens have then been subjected to all sorts of rigorous tests, such as lie detectors, obviously ongoing interviews. And that was very much at the first stages of people coming forward to say they've been abducted by aliens, because obviously it was a really hard pill for the authorities to swallow, right? But then as it progressed, so I mean, the first massive cases of alien abductions really happened in like the early 60s. 1965 was the first kind of worldwide publicized abduction, which was the Barney and Betty Hill case, where basically, and I won't go into all of the details, it'll just take too long, but basically they were followed by a UFO, they were abducted, they lost a lot of time in between literally passing out and coming back to in their car. They was actually in their car at the time of the abduction. And then later on, which is what we're going to get into, under hypnosis, they were able to recount the abduction scenario. Which brings us back to the point, you know, how can we verify that these things are really happening to these people? So after the Betty and Barney Hill scenario, and they actually worked with a doctor called Dr. Benjamin Simon, who took them through regressive hypnosis. And under hypnosis, the Hills recounted what had happened to them. And just as a real kind of overview, they were taken into an alien spacecraft, subjected to sexual ramifications with these experiments, from going through the abdomen to Barney saying that sperm was taken from him. He actually described it as a sperm extraction machine. As the phenomenon has progressed and people being taken more and more seriously, one of the major tools that's used in order to find out the details of what's actually happened to them is hypnosis. Because one of the things that you find with a lot of people, and not all, but with a lot of people that have been abducted by aliens, is the fact that they don't have total recall, meaning they can't always remember all of the things that had happened to them through the abduction process. And so hypnosis was deemed to be the best form of gaining the information that couldn't be remembered. And I mean, we then start delving into all sorts of things, because, you know, listening to the abductee stories, some abductees have said in their accounts that the aliens told them that they wouldn't be able to remember what had happened to them. I mean, some abductees have even gone as far as to say they feel like there's a presence in their mind stopping them from being able to recount what had actually happened to them. So regressive hypnosis is the main tool that is used for people that can't remember the fullness of their experience, in order to gain the information and go through what has happened to them. Now, as I said, there's a guy called Johnny Mack. He's a professionally trained psychotherapist, psychoanalyst, whatever you want to call it. And basically, he worked with a number of people, a large amount of people, that had come forward to say that they had been abducted by aliens. And obviously, there was some people that were not telling the truth. Okay, and that seemed to be found out quite quickly through this regressive hypnosis technique. And then obviously there was a lot of people with some very genuine stories, not only because of what they could recount under hypnosis, but because in their normal state, in their natural state, having been assessed by psychotherapists. And so some people were exhibiting PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, right? And that's not something that you can fake, okay, for the most part, okay? And so when people were exhibiting these symptoms as well, this just brought some credibility to their stories. But ultimately, the question still remains, is this really happening to people? Is there anything other to prove that this is going on? Well, there's quite a bit of physical evidence too. We've had situations where people have had little pieces of what appeared to be metal extracted from quite deep in their arms or backs or chests and stuff like that, and were only found because they were x-rayed. And when those shards of metal have been extracted, when they've been tested to see what they are, the chemical composition of what this appears to be, we'll call it metal, doesn't sit on any of our charts as material found on this planet, right? So again, how do you explain that if this isn't happening to these people? So again, and like, I encourage all of you that are listening to this, go and study it for yourself. Go read the books by John E. Mack. I mean, that's John E. Mack, not Johnny Mack, yeah? John E. Mack. Because his books were very compelling. He's obviously was a professional at what he did, and took them through the scientific process of extracting this information and noting it down and talking it through. And then once the abductees had come out of their hypnotic state and then remembering what had happened to them, are then able to elaborate even more. Okay, so we're at the juncture now at whether or not you believe that to be true and believe that these fantastical things are actually happening to people or not. And so when I approached this subject and when I came to study it, one of the reasons why I am inclined to believe that this is actually happening to people, there are biblical scriptures to back this up. And I mean, when you listen to the testimonies and, you know, people like John E. Mack, when they are describing what these people are going through and how this affects their lives, it's not just somebody that's telling a story. From my perspective, and everybody needs to make up their own mind, but you know, people that suffer divorce because they become introverts because they just can't deal with life. We'll go into who are the alien races, and then from a biblical perspective, where does this all fit in? Okay, so I will see you on the next session. God bless.